So, hello there. This is Mike, Pops, whatever you want to call me. This is a little bit longer video, hopefully. I'm just still trying things out. I'm new to all this, so we'll be on this journey together. Um, we'll see how things evolve. But if you watch the shorts that I made about my introduction, tell a little bit about myself. Um, I am a recovering churchgoer, recovering Baptist, recovering, whatever it was, Catholic, do the Catholicism, but I was raised in the church, and my belief systems have changed recently. Don't want to really have a label to put on it. The early Gnostic teachings that were left out of the Bible kind of resonate for me. I've been introduced to a lot of energy work. It's still amazing from day to day as you awaken, as you start seeing the world through different eyes. The peace that you can have, at least that I've experienced. And I'm not saying it's just, daisies and rainbows and unicorn farts. None of that stuff. It's just a matter of when you feel it and you can remember and I don't want to say faith, but it's just that it's the truth. It rings true. You know in your heart when it rings true. When something rings true, you can tell. And I'm not saying people can't bamboozle you, pull the wool over your eyes. That's happens every day. It's been happening for thousands of years. When we talk about the organized religions and such, like I said, I grew up Christian, Baptist, and I still have all my families that still very much believers, and I'm not trying to dissuade them or change their mind in any way. Everyone's got to have their own path to go down, and I still believe in a higher power, still believe in God, just don't think it's how the Bible, King James Version, is. There's a lot of good teachings, a lot of wonderful teachings, but if you do your history work, do a little bit of research, and by all means, I'm not a scholar on the Bible. Being raised in the church, yes, having to go to Sunday school, Bible study schools, Bible camp, all those things. Yeah, you kind of pick that stuff up, but I'm by no means a scholar. But I know, pretty good bit about that, and I know how to find it. If I can't remember exactly, I haven't memorized all the verses and stuff. But I can remember a lot of the teachings and stuff growing up, and they just didn't seem quite right. So I've come to my own personal knowledge and my own personal belief that organized religions were meant to control. The kings of the day would be the head of the church, the Pope. Got nothing against them individually. The more current ones that I've seen and stuff, they seem like decent guys, and I do believe that they don't necessarily have an ulterior motive, but in the past they have wanted the power, wanted the riches. They were susceptible to greed. They're human. Or they're of this worldly form. We can get into the thoughts also, tying into Gnosticism, going back to the Council of Nicaea that pretty much said that no, we're not going to, even though it's been for hundreds of years, right along Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Gospel of Mary, the Book of Enoch, Gospel of Thomas. And I haven't read those myself. I have, read up on them, but I have not actually read them myself. But what I've discovered and what I've read and stuff really, they don't have the overall arching theme of servitude, of being scared, demanding fealty out of fear. The penalty of sin is death, going to hell if you don't believe. It's possible. It could be the fact that it's just a matter of having to repeat yourself if you didn't learn your lesson. A lot of the Gnostic teachings and such, they still believe in God. It's a being of light, and the way they describe it, and a lot of things in the Bible when they talk about Jesus coming back after a crucifixion, being in light, nothing, just pure light. And that's what I feel led is the truth. We're all beings of light. We're all connected in energy. We can be shown by science that the basic building blocks that we're all made of is energy, which leads a lot of interpretation. A lot of people believe that this is all just a matrix. Kind of believe that myself. This is not, no kinda. We are all derived from source energy, God. That's our soul. What makes us alive is nothing but energy. Our thoughts. You can, do an EEG to detect brain waves. That's energy. That's what we are. The electrical impulses in our muscles to move the muscles. You go down to the basic building blocks, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. It's made of atoms. An atom of hydrogen is made of what? Neutrons, protons, electrons, electrical charges. The amount of true mass in, an electron or a proton or a neutron is so insignificant. It's not even, it's negligible. What you're made of is energy. So energy's all around us. We are energy. So by being, for whatever belief system is why you're here, your soul was born here on earth. Okay? Could have been, you're coming from source energy where you are a part of that. So if you wake up and realize that you're all part and we're all connected, we're connected to the trees. And it's very, there's a lot of, if you do your research and stuff, our modern stories, if you think about it, stories of the Bible, the parables and stuff they use for teachings. They didn't have television. They didn't have radio. It's word of mouth, teaching, telling these stories to teach a message. And we just have to open up and hear it. But we also have modern day messages. We can go to a lot of our movies and see, somebody knew something about Gnosticism. Especially if you ever think about the Matrix. It's just, there's a very thinly veiled story there, teaching there. Are you going to wake up from the Matrix, or are you going to stay blind and choose to have the steak, even though you know it's not a steak, but it tastes like a steak, and you don't want to remember that it's not a steak, really. Little scene from Matrix. when one of the guys wanted to get back into the Matrix, who is working with the Mr. Smith. But, and also knowing, and there's every day, there's leaps and bounds happening right now. And I believe I know the reason why. I don't think it's time to share it at the moment. But people are waking up by the droves. People are coming to realize that this isn't working anymore. This isn't. The world's on fire. But I'm protected. I just know it. I just know it. There's a lot of things that, looking back on my life, no other way to explain that I was protected. I was guided. I was cared for. I was provided for. I felt like a dinghy boat, a little buoy, just out on the water, going with the waves, going with the flow. But I was being guided down a path. I chose different paths a lot of times. But I still ended up where I'm at now, and I think that's exactly where I'm supposed to be. I chose the path to go become a nurse, because I want to help people. But also, I mean, that's the noble thing. But initially, it was just financial reasons. Had kids that needed to be taken care of, had a family I needed to provide. So it was a financial decision to go into healthcare versus construction, which I was in before, which is heavily dependent on the economy. So when the economy took a dip and I was out of work, I had to do something. So I chose to go into the medical field because there wouldn't be, there's very, very little chance of the economy necessarily affecting being able to have a job or not. So, but I've grown and see that it was where I needed to be. It's where I loved it. I loved helping people. But people as a whole suck. They been a nurse for 13 years now. And not only, there was always the grouchy ones that came in, but it just seems like everybody feels like they're entitled and they want a quick fix. And just, maybe I'm just jaded, maybe I'm burnt out. But it's not only that, I still want to help people. I still want to make a difference in the world. For years, I felt hollow, felt numb. And part of that has to do with my upbringing. I mean, yes, my family loved me. I was never mistreated, never abused, provided for, all those things. I got no complaints about that. We said we loved you. We said we loved each other. But it seemed very superficial. Everything, we don't talk about heavy subjects. We don't, we try not to avoid any confrontations. So I was raised to be unconfrontational, to go along with the flow, which goes back to organized religions, being taught to do what's told by the preacher, which in turn has their own agenda. It's a cycle. And I think there's definitely a reason for that. We were taught to follow blindly. We were taught to not question. And I think that is the reason why we're in the state we're in right now, is because they follow blindly someone that says that they're a Christian. Oh, then we have to follow behind them instead of looking at their actions. You know, Jesus fed the poor. The Bible teaches to be kind to strangers. Be kind to people, foreigners in your land. But the ones screaming loudest and supporting all the stuff that's going on right now with the deportations and just following the current regime because he says he's Christian. He says he loves Jesus. He holds up the Bible. He endorses the Bible to sell. And so many people bought it. Hell, there was even, I think it was Oklahoma, maybe it was Oklahoma, where they introduced, they were putting religion back into the schools and forcing everyone to buy a brown Bible, King James Version, or I think it was, whatever version it is. It's very specific. It's outlined his Bible that he's selling, making money off of, profiting from. But they made it a requirement for that school system to put money in his pocket. It had to be brown leather bound with including the Pledge of Allegiance and the Constitution in it, which is, they keep saying they want to follow the Constitution, but there's been a lot of executive orders that says otherwise, and they're okay with it because it advances their beliefs instead of respecting everyone else's as well as theirs. We're a melting pot, America, and I don't want to get onto a soapbox. I digress. And you can do a lot of rambling. But anyway, my vision in life, where I need to be, is no longer in healthcare. There's been, I've worked at multiple facilities, different companies, worked in a hospital, I've worked in hospice, home health. Right now I'm in a mental health facility. But they don't want to help. The emphasis is not on the patient. It's on the numbers. How many people, how many beds they can fill. I'm not saying that people don't need help. But when you have the same ones coming back over and over and over again, we're not helping them. That's proof. I mean, if we were truly helping them, then I'm not saying they wouldn't have a relapse or wouldn't have another need medication adjusted or whatever. But if the healthcare system really helped them, they would have things in place, outpatient. There are, but having it more acceptable, more affordable, because a good population of our patients are homeless. So yeah, they are, have underlying mental health conditions. But the fact that hell, it's a hot day, I can go to the ER and say I want to hurt myself, and we're going to get sent to a facility and get 3 hots and a cot and air conditioning for a few days. It is what it is. They know how to play the game because there's nothing else for them. They have to do this. I don't knock them. If I was in that situation, I'd probably do the same thing. But the healthcare system is broken. Working the healthcare workers with minimal staff, the minimum staff, always fussing about, and it's always, if something happens, something goes down between you and a patient, or, especially if a behavioral patient, what could you have done different? An administration wants to know how we could have done something different. Sometimes it's just not going to go any different. If this person is delusional and thinks they're God and you can't hold them anymore and they're demanding to get out and they're violent, there's no talking down a delusional patient. It's a lot of times. Sometimes there is, sometimes it's a crapshoot. But if they're really amped up, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna be necessarily politically correct. But there's no outside resources for them. Like I said, every administrator I've had to work under is numbers and making sure we're at the very minimum staff for their whatever. And every day they break their own rules, their own guidelines on admissions. This patient, they're not supposed to admit violent patients. They do it all the time. For blood pressure parameters, we have it. We looked up in our procedure book, policies and procedures. If they're above this number or below this number, then no, send them to the hospital first. But no, every day the powers that be will send them back anyway. But that doesn't do any good for that patient. If we are not truly a medical facility, then we're a behavioral facility. Let's get them medically stabilized first. It's just a frustration that I have. But it's just a point in fact that all the medical system, the medical health care is broken. And staying in healthcare, staying in the medical field, feels like trying to put on and wear a wet wool sweater 2 or 3 sizes too small. It's tight, it's itchy, it's heavy. And that's why so many people are leaving. They can feel it. We're coming to a breaking point. I'm coming to a breaking point. So I have plans. I am manifesting. I am praying. I am meditating. That I want to make a change. I want to still provide a service. I want to be a light, agent of light. And the best way to connect, the best energy that you can have is love and joy. Going back to, there's going to be a lot of movie references if you continue to watch. Monsters, Inc. They harvested screams. That's a negative energy. Until at the end of the movie, they realized laughter, happiness, joy, so much stronger. And I want to bring joy to the world. I want to be a part of the good, the light, to bring joy, to bring happiness. I'm very eclectic as far as my hobbies and my likes and everything. I'm sci-fi movie nerd, whatever you want to call it. So there'll be some references from different movies from time to time, I'm sure. But I have a vision, and it's almost hippie-ish. Building a community of light, like-minded individuals. They don't have to be 100% on the same boat. That's not what this is about. It's about getting together a community to be a beacon in the dark world. And I'm probably going to do some short videos or maybe some videos on reminiscing, about my childhood growing up on my grandfather's farm, and just wish that I had paid attention. Um, I don't remember the numbers, but I have seen a study on the peasants of, these kingdoms or whatever. Yes, they had a hard life. They didn't have much, but they worked less hours than we do in our modern world with all the convenience we have. We work as healthcare workers typically 36 to 40 hours or more because we're always short staffed and people calling out, so they make a mad dash to try to fill the spot, or they don't, and then you work shorthanded and it sucks. You shift. But that's simple, our life, with artisans gathered together, being creative, creating things, creating our own lights, doing things that make you happy, having some property, having a little stream on it, making paths for us to get back to nature, but also have fields, grow crops, have some, learn the ways of canning again. I remember every summer working on my grandparents' farm, help them, bring in the crops, do the, preparing the stuff for, canning, for putting up for the next year. But it tasted so much better than the store-bought. It's just, they have to pick it so green, so instead of getting it ripe right off the vine. Raising chickens or rabbits for meat. Cows take a lot more room. I've looked into a lot of this stuff. I've got a vision. But having people just living together in a small community, helping out, homesteading, group effort, commune, that's got such a negative connotation, thinking of living on a hippie commune or something, but that's the best word that I can think of. But making things, pottery, woodworking, sharing that with the world. I would love to get into woodworking, really. I do little piddly stuff, but it's not anything like I want to do. But having meditation rooms, having, different campsites for people to come and stay for however long they want to. I got some super ideas that I'm really excited about making. Hopefully you'll be with me on the journey, and I'll share those with you when the time comes. Having just community. Spreading the light. I know I'm getting a little repetitive here. It's getting close to the 30-minute mark. 28:32, as a matter of fact. So I'm going to go ahead and just end it here, and we'll pick it up next time. Love and light to everyone.